Well, welcome back inside a sunrise. Good morning to Mr. Dwayne Haynes. Okay.
Morning, Dwayne.
Yeah, and Dwayne says I could be PS for the Ministry of Gender, Entertainment and Sport. Yeah, or even him said justice too. He said justice as well. And him said econ, but I said, I'm not go for econ. I don't know.
No. Well, I remember saying, as a PS, it's not the area that you're from, it's about your ability to manage the ministry.
Yeah. But so. I like gender and entertainment, And I really love tourism. I'm just saying, I like education too, because I'm very big on that, you know what I mean? Especially the children and to implement stuff. So, but thank you, Dwayne, for watching. And to all of you, keep those comments coming. We sincerely appreciate your participation. And now, I hope you've grabbed your coffee, right? What's that, Dennis? Your coffee, your coffee, your coffee, your coffee, your cup of boiling coffee in the morning. Yes, because we've been serving up some great conversations this morning. From leveling up in your friends group to leveling up in life. Our next guest is one of the youngest hospital governors in the United Kingdom's National Health Service in their history, and the sole UK delegate to the Commonwealth Youth Parliament. Now, despite facing homelessness and extreme poverty in the inner city of London with his immigrant mother, Ras.I Martin has beat the odds and is a final year student at the University of Oxford. We'll hear more about his story in a bit. So welcome to Sunrise, Ras.I.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me this morning.
How are you doing?
Morning. How are you?
Very well, very well. It's not as hot and sunny in the UK right now as we've got grey skies this afternoon, but it's great to be with you this morning.
Indeed. Well, take us to the beginning of where your story starts. Homelessness. Take us there.
Yeah. So in the kind of early stages of my childhood, my mum and I experienced a period of homelessness over about 4 years. So we moved from house to house, and by the age of 10, I think we moved about 13 different times for a variety of reasons, from poverty to safety, and finally ended up in the west of London here at the end of that spree of various moves. But yes, definitely was a tumultuous time. I think at one point we were commuting 2.5 hours to get to my primary school there, and then 2.5 hours back. So it was definitely a real kind of push, but education remained a key calling for me throughout that time, despite that turmoil.
Would you say that early period of tumultuousness, would you give it any credit to laying a foundation for who you are today in terms of your stability?
Most certainly. I feel like for me, my calling in life, and I feel like where God is calling me toward, is to look and to help people in situations like mine from a position in politics. And so I feel like that's really kind of softened my heart to those issues of poverty, to those realities of poverty from the UK and across the globe as well. And so that's really kind of put me in a position now psychologically where I'm just really on fire to help those people. And so now this transition from being in that situation like that to these various accolades, to being in the space of Oxford, and now different events, meeting the king for one of them. It's been this pivot, but those kind of lessons, those humblings have really stayed with me throughout them.
Yes. Now, it says here, Ras.I, that you're the youngest hospital governors and a Commonwealth Youth Parliament delegate. Who is a hospital governor, and what's your role?
Of course, yeah. So for me as a hospital governor, so I'm at Chelsea and Westminster. So we're one of the largest hospitals in the UK. We've got the second largest maternity ward, one of the biggest sexual clinics in Europe, actually. And so my role in that hospital is to represent the people as members of the community and kind of bridge that gap between secondary healthcare and the people. So me as a voice of those people championing those issues. So for me, that looks like thinking about issues of race and class inequality and what that means for our health outcomes. How the color of your skin can change your chances of surviving at birth for women, and so that's one of the key issues that I'm really passionate about and what I've been pushing in the hospital as well. And so we're working on that. But as we all know, change is gradual and change is slow. And so it's a process of that is speaking to the right people, talking to the community, understanding those issues and championing them in every space that I'm able to enter. Yeah, and so that's the kind of governor work that I do.
Absolutely amazing. And you've spoken about breaking the cycle of poverty in your family. What advice would you give to young people in a similar situation, especially, you know, it's September morning, the youngsters are going out now, brand new school year, you know, we want them to focus. What would you say to them?
That's a really great question. My number one piece of advice I'll give to myself and to any other young person is just to be curious. Be curious and be audacious. And what I mean by being audacious is just believing in yourself, asking questions, and having the bravery to even ask. And for me, all of the opportunities which have come in my life have started with that. This belief in myself, thinking I can do better. Even though there's no family history, there's no one in my community who have done the same things, I can still do better. And asking people in those positions, as you guys were saying in the previous segment, asking people who are already in those positions, hey, can I spend time with you? Can I ask you questions about the space you're in? How did you do it? Can I be your mentee? Can I shadow you in your work? And I'm telling you, those things lay seeds, not just for your career, but in your mind to push you on to do further things that you couldn't even imagine of doing before experiencing them.
Nice.
I find it interesting that your name is, or you call yourself Ras.I Martin. It harkens to your Jamaican heritage.
Roots, yeah.
It harkens to Rastafari. To what extent does Rastafari and Jamaican spirituality manifest itself in your life as a student and in your work?
That's a beautiful question. I think fundamentally my Jamaican identity is key to me. It's a pride of mine. You know, I actually, my first time, because of financial barriers, the first time I actually got to experience touching the island, being home, was on the Jamaica Birthright program. I did that last year, and that was a monumental process for me and has left me with a pride and a sense of joy which I hadn't ever experienced before. I'd always been proud, but it means something to be different to be proud when you know truly where you're coming from. Not just an idea of it, not just through history books, by touching the sand, meeting the people and interacting. That's been key to me. And in terms of Rastafarianism, although for me I'm a Christian, Rastafarianism and the idea of a positive rebellion, pushing the boundaries and fighting with integrity of what you believe in has always been a principles. For me, I've applied to my day-to-day and everything which I'm doing moving forward as well.
Nice. Ras.I, finally, you want to become MP and Prime Minister, I gather. What monumental changes, as you know, an agent and catalyst of change, would you bring about in the UK, especially regarding immigrant children like yourself and what they're facing now?
That's a really great question. Really, really great question. I guess I'll tackle that in two parts. So the first part, for me, where's my interest, is thinking about breaking cycles of poverty systematically. And one of the great learning lessons I've had along my journey is that I'm blessed and I'm very lucky to be in a position where I am. But there are plenty of students who are even brighter than I am in situations like mine, but have never had the opportunity to get out. And so we have to think about, from a government stance, how do we bring those opportunities to people so they can break those cycles of poverty, to fully reach their potential, maximize their potential, you know, with that helping hand, but to do that on their own. And I think that matters deeply to people across the world and in the UK as well. And this aspect of immigrant children, you know, there's plenty of barriers. And we've seen in the UK recently, we've had these race riots over the summer related to immigration. And that's painful. You know, this is a country which I've always lived in and I consider my home. But at the same time, this otherness, people saying, actually, you're not really British. You know, you're a child of an immigrant, full stop. And it's true, I am Jamaican. I am also Polish, but I am British as well. And so tackling that area, I think the root of it is misunderstanding. It is lack of connections with people who have migrated. And what we see across the UK, and we see this across pretty much most of the world, the places which hate immigration the most are the places which have the lowest levels of immigration. Why is that? Because they see a depiction of what an immigrant looks like, but they don't know anyone. And so they're not able to fight those negative ideas of what an immigrant is because they haven't met them. And so I think community is at the heart of that. Us bridging building bridges to really connect with one another, to break down those ideas and misconceptions of what immigrants bring to our country. Our country is built off of the work of immigrants. When you think about the Windrush generation post-World War II, the necessity of Caribbean and later South Asian immigrants coming to the UK to rebuild our country. It is off our backs that the country is like this. And that's an incredible thing, and we should celebrate that. And we need to come together and understand who each other are instead of creating barriers to divide us.
I can see you at 10 Downing Street. I'm seeing you. You're there. You have my vote. I see it. You're Mr. Speaker. Yeah, you know I hear you. I can see you there, Ras.I, Martin, for Prime Minister. And I will have the honor of saying I interviewed him as a student.
He's one to watch.
Yeah, University of Oxford. So proud of you, young man.
Thank you very much.
Continue shining your bright light. And you definitely have our support from Dongayard.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a great morning.
Our guest has been Ras.I Martin. He's a student at the University of Oxford. A remarkable story right there.
Yeah.
We're going to take a minute to pay some bills, and when we return, we're going to get a mental health checkup this morning.
Definitely.